We all know that Lori Vallow is in a state mental health facility getting her health under control in order to stand trial. She is charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder and is expected to be facing the death penalty. To understand the death penalty in Idaho, we have to take a look at other death penalty cases. There's only one woman, and her name is Robin Lee Rowe. There are some stark similarities between Robin and Lori. In this episode, we examine the death penalty for women in Idaho, go over Robin Lee Rowe's case, and take a look at what the death penalty would look like if Lori received it. Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Christy Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody. Excited to be here on this great Tuesday.
Yeah, it's our Tuesday case. We're already rolling through the week.
We surely are.
Yeah, well, very good. And happy Valentine's Day to all if you've celebrated such things.
Yes. Happy Valentine's Day yesterday.
Or Galentine's Day, or whatever you did.
Galentine's Day. Oh, yeah. I saw several different Palentine's Day. There's
Yes.
a bunch of different I don't know. It's never a big deal to me because we grew up celebrating Valentine's Day as a whole family.
Mm-hmm.
So it never seemed like if you were single, you were left out. I don't know. I guess we just didn't grow up that way.
No, not at
Valentine's Day
all.
was just for everyone.
No,
So,
but I know it was an excruciating day for some of my clients. So I
yes.
hope everybody's okay. I
Yeah.
dread Valentine's Day for that reason. It is just a hurtful situation, unfortunately.
It
So
is.
yeah, boo. But yay, love. But boo, Valentine's Day, and I don't know, whatever.
Yay, boo. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's over. We'll move on. Well, Christy, I know you have a racial injustice case to kick us off. So I'm going to
do.
turn the mic over to you to hit it hard.
All right. Well, today, a little bit of racial injustice has been righted 44 years too late.
Wow.
This is Vincent Simmons. And Vincent Simmons was released from prison today after serving 44 years. He's been in prison since 1977.
Wow.
This is in Louisiana. He has always claimed he did not get a fair trial, which is actually very clear now that he did not. He was convicted of attempted aggravated rape of twin 14-year-old sisters. Attempted rape. And he was given 100 years in prison.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he has tried 16 times to get a new trial.
Mm-hmm.
He has always maintained his innocence, and there was information that came out almost immediately after his conviction that the prosecution did not share that would have been exculpatory in his initial trial and certainly should have been a part of it, including that the victims, their medical exams did not necessarily indicate that there was any attempt of sexual assault. However, we have to be careful with that because that doesn't always mean that there wasn't.
No.
They did, though, tell the police when they were being questioned that all Black people look alike and used the N-word, and then also said they were totally sure that Vincent is who assaulted them. So there were real questions, and he has tried over and over and over again. Finally, has been granted, well, was initially granted a new trial and released. The prosecution has come back and said they have absolutely no interest in retrying him. So
Yeah.
he is a free man. He's not exonerated from
No.
what he was convicted of, unfortunately for him. However, he is a free man and they will not retry him. So that's a little bit of justice today.
Yeah.
And, I don't want this to seem like we're siding with him and not the victims. It's just that there were a lot of questions in this case about whether he was even the person who did do what these young girls had said had happened.
Well, and his
And
rights were violated, obviously, if there
yeah,
was evidence that wasn't turned over by the prosecutor, and
yes.
100 years for attempted rape.
Yeah, very extreme sentence. So yes,
Yeah.
definitely
Wow.
problematic. And so I just have to say I'm happy for Vincent that he was released today,
Yeah.
that he at least gets to live out a little bit of his life. I mean, he's 70.
Yeah.
So, but he gets to go home with family and have some life left at
Mhm.
this point. And, the prosecutor has looked at the case and said, there's not enough here to even try this case again.
Yeah.
There's no way he would be convicted now.
No.
And he's already served so much time. So,
Wow.
anyway, that's just the beginning of a little bit too little, too late, but at least a small amount of racial justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Katie, I'm going to kick the mic back over to you for our main case.
Okay. So, our main case, as you probably already know, is about Lori Vallow today. We know that Lori, there was a hearing on her behalf last Friday, a status
Mhm.
conference talking about whether or not she is spiffed up and ready to come back to court or not. Of
Right.
course, it was sealed because it has to do with her mental health, and so her HIPAA rights come into play. So we don't know what happened in that hearing. She's not actually, her 180 days doesn't actually expire until the 22nd of March. And
Right.
so it's possible that we won't really know anything until then about
Right.
whether or not they're going to extend that or send her back to the jail.
Yeah.
So we don't know right now what's going to happen. I know there are a lot of people that are really hoping she's coming back. I know there are many that are predicting that she isn't. I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see. I think it was interesting because her attorney asked for the evaluation.
Right.
And I can't help but think that Mark Means really, really pushed for this hospitalization as a
Yeah.
part of his strategy,
Mm.
and that perhaps
Mhm.
her attorney now, Mr. Archibald, isn't quite sure that she's not fully capable of participating in her own defense.
I'm sure he wanted to get sort of a clean evaluation
I'm
to see.
sure. Well, yeah, because everything with Means was not clean. He
No,
was so
he muddied the waters already.
inappropriate. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. So we're waiting on that. But I was thinking about that today, which and also about Idaho and the death penalty because Idaho just can't quit pulling dirty pool over the death penalty. And we'll talk
Right.
about that more tomorrow night in case updates because we've reported on that before. So we'll file that in case updates.
Sure.
But so that's kind of where my train of thought was going, thinking about Lori and Idaho and the death penalty, and really how remarkable it is that death penalty charges or the death penalty is on the table for her. Chad has already been indicated, that they're seeking the death penalty, and the same will go for Lori. And so, at least we believe that's true. That's what the prosecutor has indicated.
Right. She can't officially be charged until she's competent, and then they will make a statement about seeking death penalty. But it does
Hmm.
seem pretty clear that that's what's happening in this case because her
Hmm.
co-defendant is,
Yeah,
in fact, already facing 6 counts
yeah.
of first-degree murder.
Particularly because there was an insistence on the court that she have a death penalty certified attorney,
Yes, for
because
sure.
she is receiving a public defender because she's been found to be indigent. So, and I recognize that a lot of this is supposition at this point. We don't know because there's a lot we don't know yet about what's going to happen with her. But I
Right.
still think it's a really interesting conversation. So don't at me in the comments. We know there's nothing set in stone yet. We're aware. We're saying
Right.
that too. But this is an interesting conversation because Idaho has never executed a woman,
Yeah.
ever.
It's pretty rare anywhere.
Pretty rare. So then I was wondering, of course, how the rabbit hole takes you.
Right.
And so the rabbit hole took me to women in Idaho that are on death row. There is one.
Right.
There is one. And which again, I mean, this is a large state that's sparsely populated. So it's not a big surprise, but it kind of is when you look at other states. Texas has six, you know.
Right. Right.
I mean, we are, or at least at last count. I don't know now, actually. You don't at me on that one either, but
But by population, I mean, yeah.
yeah. And so then I started looking into her because I think it's interesting for us to kind of take a look at what happens. What would happen? Let's pretend for a moment that Lori gets spiffed up, comes back to court, is found guilty, and is sentenced to death and is placed on death row, which
Mhm.
is a possibility.
Right.
Well, she would go to the Women's Correctional Facility in Pocatello,
Right.
which is about an hour from where she is now. Well, from the Madison County Jail where she has been,
Right.
about an hour and a half from there. Uh,
Mhm.
and she would live her life essentially in solitary. The way death row inmates are treated is that they spend 23 hours a day in their cell. They're in a solitary 5 by 7 cell. They are allowed out for 1 hour a day for exercise and fresh air. They are allowed out for medical care and they're allowed out to speak to their attorney. That's it. They take their meals in their cell. Anytime they are released from their cell for any purpose, they are shackled and cuffed. They are treated like a dangerous criminal for the rest of their life.
Mhm.
Now, Idaho historically takes a damn long time to
If
actually
at all.
execute, if at all. If at all. And we'll talk about that a little more tomorrow night in case updates because uh, Idaho's, they've got some death penalty issues going on right now. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Another case we've talked about also.
so Lori could potentially live in solitary like that for an extremely long time, which Lori's in her
Maybe
late
even
40s
her the
now.
rest of her life. Yeah.
hmm So I want to talk a little bit about the inmate that is in Idaho that is on death row. She is in Pocatello, and her name is Robin Lee Rowe. And Robin
Mhm.
Lee Rowe, surprise, surprise, murdered her husband and her children.
Right.
And why? For life insurance money.
Oh boy.
Big surprise. Now, her case is a little different because she had a baby in New Hampshire when she was quite young, and that baby died of SIDS.
Mm.
And then she had a little boy, and she was living in California in a cabin, and that little boy died
Oh
under some suspicious circumstances.
dear.
And then she had two more children and got married and was living in Ada County in the Boise area. She married a guy named Randy Rowe. And then she had her two children, Joshua Cornelier and Tabitha Cornelier. They were 10 and 8. And at the time, she was not living in their duplex. She was living with friends. Things were rocky. Her
Mm.
children were living with her husband, who they weren't his kids, but obviously he was a better parent than she was.
Mhm.
And the duplex burned down, and they were all three killed.
Oh dear.
And 3 days after they died, guess who was arrested
Yeah.
and charged with first-degree murder? And she was convicted. And partly she was convicted because she had been working on taking out life insurance policies on all three of them. She managed to take out about $250,000 on the three of them.
Wow.
And that certainly made her look suspicious.
When
And
was that? How long ago
that
was
was
it?
in 1993.
Oh, wow. Because yeah, I mean, that now it doesn't seem like that much
Oh,
life insurance, but in the 90s.
sorry, that was 1992. She was convicted in 1993.
Ah,
That was
okay.
on February 10th, 1992. Now, here's the thing. Her other little guy that died in California, guess what? She had a life insurance policy on him.
Oh, God.
That was in 1980. He was 6 years old. His name was Keith. And it was a fire.
Oh, boy.
And she made $28,000 in life insurance.
Man, that's a special kind of psychopath to kill your own children in fire.
Yep. Yep.
God
Absolutely.
almighty.
Well, and this is what the sheriff said. He said, I investigated it and learned I believe that she killed a 15-month-old daughter in New Hampshire in 1976 and her 6-year-old son in California in 1980. She had killed 2 of her children before without being caught, and I was determined that in this fact, if this was murder, that I was going to do everything I could to collect evidence and make sure she didn't get away with it again. So the daughter that died in New Hampshire was 15 months old, which we now believe 15 months is way too old to die of SIDS.
Right.
And the sheriff really believes that she really died of suffocation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this little boy, this is just horrifying. And the 6-year-old little boy, in 1980, Rainey said that Robin Rowe was staying in a borrowed cabin with her 6-year-old son Keith when a fire broke out and killed him. He says forensics suggest the boy's bedroom door was locked and an electric heater was pushed up against his bed blankets. Rainey said the boy probably tried crawling to the door but couldn't get out and died trying to get out the window.
My God.
He's believed that Keith's murder was still chargeable, but because they went forward with the Boise cases, they decided not to charge her in that one. He said that she was the most dangerous and most manipulative psychopath he'd ever come across. The prosecutor said that this was the most premeditated of the premeditated murders that he had seen in quite some time. She'd planned it for quite a while. She'd laid a lot of breadcrumbs out, gotten all the life insurance policies in place, was staying with the friends, had all these things in place to pull this off.
Wow.
But she was found guilty and she was sentenced to death. That was in 1993.
And she's
Yeah.
still on death row.
And she is still on death row. Now, there have been a lot of attempts at appeals. Every single one of them has been batted down. Appeals ranging from inept counsel, which has always been our worry with Lori,
Right. Right.
that would be an appeal that came through, and it will come through. But hopefully, now that she has Archibald, and Means is out of here, that will not hold any water.
Yeah.
The most recent one is that her attorneys didn't do enough to prove that she had atrophy of the brain. Mm-hmm.
What? From what?
Why? I don't know. I
Atrophy
don't
of the
know.
brain from what? And how could you possibly prove that from 30 years ago?
Good question.
I mean, that's probably the case now, considering she's lived
Mm-hmm.
in solitary for 23 hours a day for 30 years. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, brain atrophy is caused by something.
Yeah. Well, not sure, but that was the latest in 2015. That was in front of Judge Windmill, trying to get the whole damn thing thrown out. It should be all
Oof.
thrown out, and she should be acquitted because her attorneys just didn't do enough to prove that she had atrophy of the brain.
That's
In
really strange to
2017,
say that.
I don't know. Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I can't even find the ruling. I don't know that there even has been one. In 2017, she was briefly brought back to Ada to be housed in the Ada County Jail, county jail, or anyway, in lockup in Ada for a minute for a mental health evaluation because they're still trying to prove that she's just, bonkers to the bone and just, I don't know. Does this sound familiar to anybody?
It really does, except that Idaho doesn't have an insanity defense.
Yeah.
And also, what does her mental health status now, 30 years later, have to do with anything?
Well, they're trying to use that as a reason to get the death penalty removed,
Oh, okay.
which I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand to some degree when you look at these cases. She's been on death row for 30 years. She has been in solitary for 30 years. Why does she want to stay?
Right? I would question that. Why would you wanna live at this point? But
Yeah.
I don't know. That gets me all over into the literal torture that 23 hours of solitary is a day,
Hmm.
and do we want to make someone this dangerous even crazier? I don't I don't know, I mean,
I guess if we never plan on releasing them.
there's real human rights questions about all of that, though,
Hmm.
and also just yeah, just safety, like, she would never be okay out in public ever again anyway.
No, no. So the victim's family is furious. They're furious. They cannot
Right?
believe that they have been drugged through now 30 years of court cases with
Has
this
she
video.
ever had a date? Has she ever had an
No,
execution date set? Wow.
nope, no execution date set. Will Robin Lero ever actually be executed? I would predict no. I'll bet she's
Yeah,
not.
I bet she's not too.
Not even because the courts do anything about it. I just think that she'll die in prison before they ever get to it.
Yeah, they'll just wait it out.
That's my suspicion. But I did think her case was interesting because there are some pretty good parallels between her and Lori.
There sure are, yeah. Well, that's generally I mean, you don't see a lot of female psychopaths, but the ones that you do see are the ones that kill their own children, that kill their own
Hmm.
family. I
Yeah,
mean, that's pretty much, as far as, like, that level of depravity,
yeah,
you know, female
yep,
psychopaths are
yep. Well, and interesting that for the deaths that she is convicted of, there's death in her wake. You know,
yes. Yeah, that it
interesting.
was going on for a while before
Hmm.
anyone figured it out. Yeah,
Hmm.
no kidding.
Yep,
That is very similar.
it is. It's pretty interesting. So we can suppose then that if Lori did receive the death penalty, that she would likely go through, well, I don't know. At this point, this person's been through 30 years of appeals. Would that happen with
Mhm.
Lori? Likely, because there's a lot of cases to wade through there.
Right,
Now,
right.
will she actually be uh, sentenced with the death penalty? We don't know. There's a big what if here about, if she were to roll on Chad or Chad were to roll on her, or if somebody takes a plea. There's a lot that we don't know. However, I think it's interesting to still examine what would the death penalty look like for Lori. Would she ever actually receive it? Lori's in her late 40s now.
Yeah. Yeah. It does beg a lot of questions. It begs a lot of questions on this other case about why this person went to trial.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of times the incentive to not go to trial and to plead is
Mhm.
taking the death penalty off the table.
Mhm.
So, that's interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah,
Mhm.
I it doesn't surprise me that Idaho and it's not for any benevolent reasons.
No.
It's not at all, but it's just
Yeah.
Idaho doesn't want to appear to be a state like that. They don't want to appear to
No.
but it's not out of benevolence, as we know from some other recent cases that have gone through that are
Mhm.
going on in Idaho right now that we'll talk about on Wednesday. But um yeah, it doesn't surprise me. They don't Idaho does not want to be seen as a state that would
Yeah.
execute a woman.
No. It's interesting. It is really pretty remarkable that it's on the table at all.
Yeah, it is. It is, and we don't 100% know because Lori has
Yeah.
not been officially charged, and so we don't know for sure that this state is seeking the death penalty, but it would be
Like they've indicated that they are. They just can't
yeah, but
officially make the
it would be strange
yeah.
not to considering,
Well,
you
the
know,
joinder,
the joint yeah,
you
well,
know.
yeah, the cases are joined. She has 5 first-degree murder charges.
Mm-hmm.
Chad has 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, with
Yeah.
their conspiracy charges as well as,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it seems very likely that that's what they
Well,
would
and
seek.
Arizona hasn't had their way with her yet, and they're
Right,
saying that they just may. So,
right, there's
and they
that too.
probably won't actually because Idaho's going to
I
romp
mean,
all over her. It's probably not going to be worth it, but
if she gets life here or
yeah.
death penalty here, then
Yeah.
reason.
No. So, at any rate, I thought that was interesting information to pass along and that you guys would find it interesting as well. So,
Yeah, it really is something to consider.
I mean, if she's just sentenced to life without possibility of parole or, many life sentences, which is likely, we can assume that she'd just be in Gen Pop with everybody else and have a very different experience.
Right, right. Being on death row is
Totally
the
different deal.
yeah, it's
And the other
mm,
big thing right now with that is that states are having a really hard time getting the substances that they need to carry out lethal injection.
right.
And Idaho has been involved in a scandal as far as that's concerned. We're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow night.
They're
But
trying to legislate
it's
away a scandal. Imagine.
mhm. It's possible that they won't even be dishing out the death penalty. They haven't been. I mean, we haven't had the death penalty even enforced in Idaho since 2011 or 2012.
Right,
Sorry, 2012. So it's been 9 years, 10 years, and just this year, over this last year, we have an inmate who is dying of stomach cancer. He's on hospice and he's been fighting to be allowed to just die naturally rather than by death penalty because why?
right.
There's just
You
no
need to
point in
kill a
it.
dying man. Why?
Yeah. And the parole board granted that request, and the governor swooped in and overrode that and denied that request. And then it went to court, and the judge said, "You don't have the authority to do that."
Right.
So, no, we are going to uphold that request. So, as of right now, they are going to allow him to die naturally. I don't understand why we're having this fight. They can't even get the drugs necessary to perform a lethal injection.
No, and
And
that's
why are
Gerald
we going to
Pizzuto
perform a lethal
that we're talking
injection?
about.
Yeah, yes, on a dying man who has already been on death row also for something like, well, his
Like
crimes were
40
committed in the
years.
mid 70s. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's 45-ish years he's been on death row. Why now? We got to hurry and do it before he dies?
yeah.
Why?
Sick, man. Sick.
Yeah, it's wild. This is just some pretty wild stuff. So, anyway, interested to know what your thoughts are. If you think that she'll ever actually will make it that far, or she'll ever really be charged, or that they'll actually seek the death penalty, and if you think if they do, if she will get it. Interested to know what your thoughts are. Until then, Christy, I am going to toss the mic back over to you for some paranormal crime.
Yes. So, I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
This happened in 2015. There was a car accident. I'm going to show you a picture of the accident here. And this was in Utah, actually. So
Ooh.
here's the accident. This car goes over a median over the bridge under a bridge.
Hmm.
And it took a while for people to find this accident and find these people. So here's what happened. The officers get down there to where the car kind of is, and they said we could see a person in the front seat, and then we heard a voice saying, "Help me, we're in here." The officer that heard it from Spanish Fork Police Department said it was clear as day that they heard someone say those words. And when they got to the car was partially submerged in the water. They think it had been in the water about 14 hours. The water was near freezing temperatures.
Hmm.
And the mother of well, there was a mother and child in the car. The mother was dead in the driver's seat. the child, an 18-month-old baby girl, was hanging upside down, still in her car seat. And she was unconscious, but alive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they said that they could see kind of her eyes were moving and they could see that she was alive.
Mhm.
And so they got the baby back to shore and performed CPR on her. Her name is Lily. She regained consciousness and she lived.
Mhm.
And her mother, Jennifer
Wow.
Grosbeck, was 25 years old at the time. She was driving to her home in Springville, Utah,
Mhm.
which, by the way, is the same place that Tammy Daybell is buried.
Yeah.
Just out of weirdness, but, when going over a bridge, for some reason, they don't know why, she hit a barrier and went over. This happened about 10:30 at night, so it was in the dark, and she succumbed in the cold water,
Mhm.
but she hung around, you guys, to
Mhm.
help make sure that the police found her baby girl who was alive.
Wow.
And the police that were involved say absolutely heard that voice as clear as day.
Mhm.
They
Wow.
one officer said, the voice said, "We're over here," uh, and they replied back and said, "Hang in there, we're trying what we can, we're trying to get to you," you know?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
very clearly, mom was dead and had been dead for a long time.
They were yelling back and forth to a ghost.
Yeah, they
Wow.
they absolutely were. They absolutely were, but she hung around long enough to save the life of her baby girl,
Yeah.
which I
A
think is
mother's
really
love, man.
amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just thought that was a really cool story because there
It
were
is a very
there were
cool
so many
story.
people witness to it. There were about 4 police officers that heard it,
Mhm.
that they had no doubt they thought they were talking to someone who was inside the car.
Mhm. I love that that's a story. I mean, I love that that story is released, that they're talking about
Yeah,
it,
that it's out
that
there. Yeah, like,
yeah.
that they didn't just pretend like, "Oh, well, that was crazy. That didn't really happen," you know?
Yeah.
No, they're talking about it. So,
I love it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
very
Well,
cool.
good on Lily and on mom, darn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is our Tuesday case. We will be back tonight at 7 p.m. Mountain for the cold read party.
Yes, we
That is a
will.
live stream that is membership only. So you just go to our YouTube channel. Right there, there's a spot that offers you a chance to subscribe. You just do that. It's $4.99 a month, and then you get to come to the cold read party. And at the
Yeah.
cold read party, we you can bring us a case. So bring us a short paragraph about whatever case you want us to read. They need to be cold and they need to be old-ish,
Yeah.
like brand new current cases we don't cold read because there's some ethical issues there that we've discussed lots of times. I don't have to go into all that. But
Yeah.
at any rate, come to the cold read party. It's fun. And it's fun to get to
It
hear
is.
the all the cases. You guys bring us some really interesting stuff that we've never heard before because you all
Right?
have cold cases from your communities or from your families or from your countries or whatever that we may not have ever heard about. And
Yeah.
occasionally we'll pick one of those cold read cases out and do a whole case on them, a whole spotlight on them because they're so interesting.
Yep.
So it's an interesting time. We appreciate it. And we love having you guys come. So then we'll be back Wednesday with a brand new episode, and then Wednesday night with case updates, and there are a ton of them. And then,
Mhm.
of course, Thursday night for the psychic hour. So a
Yes.
jam-packed week. We have lots more to come. Like, subscribe, share, all the things. We love to see you guys around. This has been yet another, oh, I was going to say publication. Let's say edition. This has been another edition of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, everybody.